Kid Buu wasn't just a threat to the living, he was a problem for existence itself. At this point in the story, Kid Buu was on a rampage across the universe, teleporting from planet to planet and destroying them without hesitation. There was no strategy behind it, no goal beyond chaos. He was searching for Goku and Vegeta. Along the way, he did something no other villain had done before. He invaded Otherworld, specifically the Grand Kai's planet, a place meant to be safe, a place for the dead, a place where warriors like Krillin, Yamcha, Pikkon, and Ali Buu were training in peace, until Kid Buu appeared. And he wasn't lost. He showed up smiling. That smile alone told everyone what was coming, and only a few people immediately understood how bad this was. Krillin did, King Kai did, and Yamcha definitely did, because Kid Buu wasn't dead. So the question hit everyone at once. How did someone like that end up in Otherworld? Buu started looking everyone over, sizing them up. Yamcha, still shaken from their last encounter, made it clear he wasn't about to relive becoming Chocli. Ali Buu and Pikkon, on the other hand, treated Buu like he was just another opponent. They laughed, they mocked him, and Kid Buu screamed. Not as an attack, but it felt like one. The scream shook the entire realm of the Otherworld, warping the area and blowing everyone away. In that moment, it became clear this wasn't going to be a fight. It was going to be one-sided. The strongest warriors in Otherworld couldn't lay a hand on him. Krillin tried to intervene with the Destructo Disc, but it didn't even slow Buu down. Instead, Krillin took the full brunt of it, punched, slammed, and tossed around like nothing. He was blasted head-on and only survived because bodies in Otherworld are more durable. Anyone else would have been erased on the spot. That's when Kid Buu stopped messing around. He started charging an attack powerful enough to destroy the entire planet. And that's when the situation got even worse. If that blast went off, everyone there, already dead, would be wiped out permanently. No afterlife, no second chance. Even King Kai would have been gone. Krillin and Yamcha tried to stop it, firing everything they had, but it only fed the attack. The energy kept growing, and then something unsettling happened. Kid Buu spoke. For the first time in this form, he looked at them and calmly said he'd squash them like bugs. Coming from someone who almost never speaks, it hit harder than any scream. Seconds later, it would have all been over if Goku and Vegeta hadn't stepped in. They lured Kid Buu away, drawing him to the Supreme Tai World and saving their friends at the last possible moment. Everyone already knew Kid Buu was dangerous, but this moment proved something else. He wasn't just chaos. He wasn't just destruction. Kid Buu was a threat to reality itself. Even death wasn't safe. Kid Buu wasn't just the final villain of Dragon Ball Z. He was the most terrifying one. No debate. The Z-Fighters versus the Ginyu Force is one of the strangest fights in all of Dragon Ball Z. After dying on Namek, Recoome, Erder, Jace, and Guldo all ended up on King Kai's planet, a peaceful training ground, a place that should have been completely safe, but instead, it became a battlefield. The Ginyu Force showed up ready to take over the planet and turn it into their new headquarters. They stormed in like they owned the place, already causing problems. Guldo ripped a whole tree out of the ground and slammed it straight into King Kai's house, just because he could. And King Kai didn't even panic. He called them weak. That's all it took. Yamcha stepped up to Recoome. Tien squared off against Erder and Jace at the same time. And Chaozu ran away from Guldo. But then something changed. The Z-Fighters adapted fast. It wasn't like their early Z-era days where they were always playing catch-up. Here, they were reading their opponents, anticipating their movement, countering their techniques. And King Kai wasn't even paying attention. He was too focused on Goku fighting Frieza. The Ginyu Force kept fighting, flexing, and showing off, until Goku hit Frieza with the Spirit Bomb. And when the explosion hit, it was over. Not for Frieza, but for the Ginyu Force. Because right after that moment, the Z-Fighters pushed harder, hit faster, moved sharper. Tien was first. He blasted Erder and Jace at the same time, sending them straight to hell. Yamcha followed, He speed blitzed Recoome so fast the big man didn't even react. Straight to hell. And then came Chaozu. Goldo tried, but Chaozu flicked him out of existence like a fly. The Ginyu Force ended up trapped in hell forever. And then King Kai revealed something unbelievable. He invited them. He wanted to see if Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu were strong enough to handle them. They were, which raises the biggest question. Were the Z-Fighters stronger than Vegeta was on Namek? Because Yamcha handled Recoome better than Vegeta did. Tien fought Berter and Jace simultaneously, and Berter was supposed to be the fastest being in the universe. These weren't tiny feats. They were domination-level performances. So what does that mean? It means the filler scene most people ignore quietly showed the Z-Fighters reaching Namek tier power, maybe even surpassing it. It means Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu, the guys some people love to clown, finally had their moment. A real moment. A moment where they weren't jokes, weren't casualties waiting to happen, but warriors. They were protectors, and on King Kai's planet, they earned that title. There's an episode in early Dragon Ball Z that almost nobody talks about. It happens before the Saiyans even arrive, and yet, it predicts everything that's about to happen. The Z-Fighters are training at the lookout, frustrated, impatient, and honestly a little clueless about what real danger looks like. They want power. They want shortcuts. They want results now. But Kami isn't teaching them a thing, at least not the way they expected. So Mr. Popo steps in. He tells them the truth, almost mockingly. He says they don't understand their enemy. He even calls Yamcha weak to his face. And yeah, that stings a little more knowing who dies first when the real invasion hits. But Popo wasn't trying to insult them. He was preparing them. He leads them to this eerie chamber deep inside the lookout. The Pendulum Room. A silent room and a warning. If you want to survive what's coming, you must know yourselves and your enemy. The room activates, and suddenly their minds are hurled 100 years into the past, into the ruins of an old Saiyan city. And then, the nightmare begins. Two Saiyans appear, but not elites, just average, ruthless warriors. And instantly, the Z-Fighters realize the gap. Chaozu is the first to fall, tossed aside like trash. Tien charges it next, throwing everything he has, speed, technique, and desperation. But it doesn't matter. He's overpowered and humiliated. These Saiyans aren't struggling. They're playing. Yamcha finally steps in with a spirit ball, trying to turn the tide. It buys a moment, but it doesn't do anything. Krillin joins in, and the three of them actually pull off a coordinated combo. Explosions, teamwork, a real effort that might have worked on any normal enemy. But Saiyans aren't normal. Not even the weak ones. Krillin is dragged away, beaten slowly. Yamcha and Tien are forced to watch. And when the two warriors finally get back up, laughing, Tien and Yamcha fire everything they have left. But it still isn't enough. The Saiyans pierce them with beams. Tien and Yamcha die screaming, just erased. And as the light leaves their bodies, the vision ends. Everyone snaps awake in the Pendulum Room, alive and unharmed. But mentally, they finally get it. This wasn't time travel. It was a warning, a lesson. This is what a Saiyan can do. This is what's coming to Earth, and it'll be even stronger. And what makes this hit so much harder, what makes this episode unforgettable, is that everything they saw in that illusion really happens after. When Nappa arrives, they fall one by one. Yamcha, Chaozu, Tien. The fear is real. The graves are real. The Pendulum Room wasn't just training. It was foreshadowing. And it was humility. Because before the Z-Fighters could protect the Earth, they had to understand one brutal truth. Saiyans don't just defeat you, they break you. And that single forgotten episode proved it. 100 years in advance. It happens early on a place called Planet Arlia. Let's rewind. Before Vegeta ever set foot on Earth, he and Nappa were drifting through space, bored, irritated, and looking for their next payday. They catch wind of a planet they could conquer and sell, and without a second thought, they head straight for it. and the moment they land, the Arlians attack. It doesn't hurt them. If anything, it annoys them. Then Vegeta does something that catches people off guard. He uses telepathy. Yeah, just casually speaks into Nappa's mind, telling him to surrender. Not because they're in trouble, but because they want to have fun. So the Saiyans let themselves get captured, thrown into a prison, and that's when they learn the truth. Planet Arlia is basically a horror story with a king on a power trip. The prisoners are forced into gladiator death matches. Losers get fed to a giant monster in a pit. One man even had his fiancée stolen on his wedding day by the king himself. This is the first time you see Vegeta and Nappa in a weird role. They're the villains of the series, but on this planet, they look like heroes. Because once the Saiyans get bored of being chained up, they break out and kill every guard in their path. And then they walk straight into the king's throne, where they're met with the strongest warriors Arlia has to offer. It wasn't a long fight. Nappa literally flicks his finger and erases them. The king panics, opens the monster pit, and unleashes his ultimate weapon. It lasts about 5 seconds. Nappa rips off its finger, licks the juice, and blasts it into scraps. At this point, the king runs. And Vegeta, who has zero patience for cowards, doesn't even waste ki on him. He just casually uses telekinesis to fire a rock straight through his chest. And suddenly, the Arlians are free. The man who lost his bride is reunited with her. He calls Vegeta a hero, a savior who liberated them from centuries of suffering. And for a split second, you could almost believe it. It feels like a classic Dragon Ball happy ending. But then, reality hits. Because Vegeta wasn't a hero. He wasn't there to save lives. He was there to end them. So just as the couple embraces, just as the planet finally gets its freedom, Vegeta raises 2 fingers and erases the entire world. The planet, the moon, the couple, gone. Their happy ending lasted maybe 10 seconds. And that's the point. This episode shows us who Vegeta really was back then. Not misunderstood, not conflicted, just ruthless. He didn't destroy Arlia because he had to. He destroyed it because being a hero was overrated. And that's what makes this moment so chilling. Before Earth ever changed him, Vegeta didn't just kill his enemies. He killed hope. Atla and Lemlia's love story in Dragon Ball Z is a short but tragic tale of devotion, betrayal, and sacrifice. It unfolds during the filler episode Terror on Arlia in the Saiyan Saga, where Vegeta and Nappa briefly visit planet Arlia. Atla and Lemlia's love story in Dragon Ball Z is a brief but tragic subplot. Married on the day war erupted on planet Arlia, Atla was soon defeated and imprisoned by King Moai, who then took Lemlia for himself. Years later, Vegeta and Nappa freed Atla, allowing him a heartfelt reunion with Lemlia. But their joy was short-lived as the Saiyans destroyed Arlia entirely, leaving the devoted couple to perish together, a fleeting tale of loyalty, betrayal, and love cut short. In short, Atla and Lemlia's love story is a fleeting but powerful subplot in Dragon Ball Z. It begins with hope, is torn apart by tyranny, briefly rekindled, and ultimately ends in tragedy when their entire world is annihilated.